right. Um, it's 4:30. I don't want to keep you guys long, so we're gonna get started. Um, my name's Rob. I'm part of the Mel team. I work in the St. Louis, St. Charles area, and I've done a couple class visits. Hoping to do some more. And if I know you, it's good to see you. And if I don't know you, it's nice to meet you today. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And let's get going. Um, all right. I think what we're going to do is spend a little bit of time kind of reviewing the first three steps and then spend a larger amount of time on step four, which is our new material. Um, so let's jump right in. Step one, teaching, teaching kids what to say when they don't know what to say. Um, I think exactly what it says on the slide, which is it gives them some skills that they can use both in the classroom and also outside of the classroom. So in the classroom, kind of encouraging them not to completely opt out, but teaching them to sort of advocate for themselves and ask for some more help or a little bit more time, um, which is helpful in the classroom, but also nice to kind of normalize that sort of thing for outside of the classroom. So when our multilingual learners are
Hold on,
in
I got you.
situation in situations outside of school or even in other classes, they'll feel more comfortable as far as asking for a little bit more time, asking for something to be repeated, asking if they can ask a friend for help. So really kind of teaching them these talk moves. Um, the step mostly consists of you as the teacher deciding what are three or four talk moves that I'm comfortable with my students making. And here's both of these posters kind of have examples of these sorts of moves. Um, the way I would lay it out with my students, I would talk about, I would say, hey, in Mr. Greenhaw's class, there's going to be times when you're asked to share your thinking. And sometimes you're going to be ready to share your thinking right away, and other times you're going to need a little bit of extra time or some more support, or you might not feel quite ready. Um, when you're not ready, I really need you to use one of these talk moves. So you might
Mm,
ask a
wow.
partner again. Sorry. You might ask to talk to a partner. You might ask for some more help. You might ask for a question to be repeated. Maybe you needed some more information. But really, I would I would kind of have the poster. I would explicitly teach my students, hey, these are the things I would love you to say. Let's repeat after me. Let's practice saying them. Um, so yeah, that's basically the gist. I think for me personally, I feel sometimes kids might want to take advantage of these and they might try to, tell you that they need more time to think in hopes that you'll go to another student and then sort of forget about them. And that's not what this is about. We really actually want to give them the extra time, give them the extra support, but still really encourage them to participate and share their thinking. In those types of situations, I think I would recommend you kind of push it back on the whole class. So if I call on Cami and Cami says, "Ooh, could I have some more time to think?" I might say, "Oh, hey, I'm going to set my timer for 30 seconds. Let's all take a little bit of extra time and think about this question, and then we'll come right back to Cami and see what she has." Or if she wants to talk to her partner, oh, good idea, Cami. Let's all talk to our partners again really quickly, and then we'll come back and see if Cami can share her thinking. So sometimes you might give them the extra time, extra support, and move on to another. But other times you might just take it as, hey, let's all take an extra minute and think about it, or let's all talk to our partners again. Um, anyway, that's sort of my take on the first step. I want to kind of put it on to you guys. I'd love to hear some people share out. Maybe you want to write in the chat or unmute. Either one is fine. But have you implemented step one? Have you made this poster with your students? Are your students using these talk moves? Has it kind of created sort of an atmosphere where you're expected to participate? Um, and then I guess one final thing is that we really have to do step one to do step three, which is the randomization. We really don't want to be randomly calling on kids if we haven't taught them what to say if they're not ready. Um, so definitely we want one before three. Makes sense. Anyway, I'm gonna be quiet for a second and let some people share out if they would, or I see maybe some stuff in the chat. All right, Caroline or Carolyn, not sure which one, made the poster referencing the freak Angie. She has talk moves, and we review them frequently. I reiterate how they could use these outside the. I was in Angie's class recently, and it was awesome. The kids were using those. She's really has a classroom climate where kids understand that they all are expected to participate and share their thinking in her classroom. Um, Nelia says she made the poster. Students are using it. Um, Good. Someone added, could I have the question in my home language? Good. I like that. So teaching them like, hey, could I have a translation? Could you give me it in my home language or something? That's a good talk move. Again, I think it's fine to kind of make these your own. Um, I think like asking a friend for help is probably one you really want on there. Um, Work with the poster daily. My students love using it. Also use the name generator. Okay, cool. Yeah. I heard about the name generator in the last meeting. Great. Thanks, Riley, and thanks, Jessica. Good. Um, all right, that's step one. Teach kids what to say when they don't know what to say. Um, and then, yeah, if you did it before Thanksgiving break and you're back after Thanksgiving break, you might want to, bring it back out and remind students that this is a tool for them. Um, Cami, if you see anyone in the chat that needs to be rebroadcast or something, any kind of ideas, please chime in.
Will do.
All righty. Step two, encouraging our students to speak in complete sentences. Uh, Lots of different reasons for this. I think we want our students complete thinking in complete thoughts. We really believe that if they're not able to verbally articulate their thinking in these complete sentences, then they're not likely to be writing in those types of complete sentences. It teaches kids grammar a little bit. So kind of pointing out how is the sentence put together, how is it typically organized, what are sort of punctuation rules or things like that. Um, it also something that's interesting to me is um, if you look into kind of writing about what is academic English, what is academic language, usually you come up with things that talk about it as being three levels. So really, there's the word level, which is sort of our vocabulary words. But then there's the sentence level, which is sort of different sentence types. So a simple sentence or a compound sentence or a complex sentence. And it's really kind of more about grammar and what are the rules for sticking words together. And then the overall communication or the genre of text would be usually called like the discourse level. They kind of have a metaphor for that where they talk about the vocabulary words being bricks, and the sentence level is sort of the mortar where you're sticking the bricks together, and then the discourse level is sort of your overall genre and how you might organize sentences into paragraphs and paragraphs into the whole text. Anyway, my point is we do pretty well at teaching vocabulary to students, but I feel like as a whole, we're not always great at having them use those words in context, using them in complete sentences, using them in the types of sentences that we would expect at that grade level in that subject area. And so by providing sentence starters and sentence frames and encouraging the use of academic vocabulary in these sort of sentence types, you're getting kids used to using complete sentences and exposed to how do these words look in the context of the subject area. The ways to do this, you want to provide students with opportunities to talk. You're probably going to always be providing some type of sentence starter, sentence stem, maybe a sentence frame, and then absolutely coaching for it. I think coaching for it to me is again like the book kind of lays it out. We don't need complete sentences all the time, but when I'm asking directly to a student a question, I expect the student to respond in a complete sentence. If I get a partial response, I think what I would encourage you to do is first sort of start with a positive. So I might say, "Hey, Cami, you're exactly right. You said the chrysalis, right?" And I would say that's exactly right. I can tell that you're paying attention to what we're learning about with the life cycle of the butterfly. Um, what the only thing that would make that even a little bit better is if we had it in a complete sentence. And then you might coach her. You might say, "Hey, Cami, do you think you could put that in a complete sentence?" Or maybe I can offer you the sentence starter of the second stage of the life cycle is blank. Or maybe I'm going to ask the whole class. I might say, "Hey, class, is there anyone who could help Cami to put her answer into a complete sentence?" So a couple of different choices there. If you feel like Cami's able to make the complete sentence independently, just ask her, "Hey, Cami, that was great. Could you give us it in a complete sentence?" If you're not quite sure if she's able to do it, you might offer the sentence starter and kind of track the print as she says it out loud. Or if you want more of a collaborative sort of classroom sort of thing, you might ask fellow students, "Is there someone who could help Cami put that into a complete sentence?" Um, I want to hear about using complete sentences, offering sentence starters, and kind of would love to hear anybody who wants to unmute. You can share out about that or anything in the chat. How's that going? You guys are gonna make me talk the whole time. Just gonna do that to me? All right.
Well, one thing that I have been doing this week is making sure if they do answer with one word, I would tell them, can you say that a different way? Do you know how to say that in a complete sentence? And through the week, some of the kids would remind their peers if they
Yeah,
heard them. They would jump in and say, you didn't say it in a complete sentence. So
I love that.
they've
I
been
love that.
practicing it.
Yeah. No, I've heard this. Like, so talking to kids about, hey, expectation is the answer that you give back to the teacher at least needs to be a complete sentence, and then having other kids kind of hold them accountable, like, "Ooh, that wasn't quite a complete sentence," or "Remember, we're trying to do complete sentences." So I love that. Thank you, Cardelia or Cardelia. Am I saying it right?
Cordelia,
Cardelia. Thank you.
yes.
Um, Cool. Jessica's sharing. It's been really helpful for her writing. Um, I say, how could we put that in a sentence? It's also been interesting to see which ones are difficult to use in a sentence, such as the word are. Oh, good. So sometimes, like, if it's is or are, if we're talking about a singular thing or plural. Good, Jessica. Thanks for sharing that. Don't use them, I make sure to ask them to use them. Good. Yeah, I think if you're providing the sentence starter or the sentence frame, I mostly think you want to communicate kind of like what Cardelia is saying is like the expectation is the complete sentence answer. And I'm going to always have the support for you of a sentence starter. And if you need that support, knock yourself out. It's right there. And if you feel sorry, my dog's down here. If you feel like you don't need the support, you can come up with your own sentence. That'd be great. And every so often, if it's a great sentence, you might say, "Hey, excellent. Let's add that to our sentence starters, right? Let's add that to our sentence frame." And we can have that as an example. Brittany says really great way, works well with her newcomer class, acknowledging their responses, having them repeat after me. Yeah. So more to it. If you got a sentence starter or sentence frame, expectation for sure is you read this aloud. So you say, one property of a solid is blank. And then you say, all right, everyone, echo read with me. One property of a solid is. And then you might say, all right, guys, let's chorally read it. One property of a solid is blank. So they're hearing it 3 times. And then it's like, hey, now tell your partner, what's one property of a solid, and use a complete sentence. So that's definitely how I would do it is I'm reading out loud, I'm tracking the print, I'm having them echo read it after me, I'm having them chorally read it with me, and then hey, turn to your partner and use that sentence. Um, Great. Got some other people sharing in the chat. You
A
guys are
lot of
good.
them are saying that they're using it cross-curricular, which is wonderful,
Nice.
and that they've helped encourage them in their writing and seen improvement in their writing. So that's
Great.
really great. Compare and contrast too.
All right.
Really good.
Um, cool. I'm gonna go to step three. Let's talk about step three. Randomizing and rotating when calling on students. I'll just start with like taking this job as a consultant for teachers of English learners, or trying to do professional development on English learners. I would have never suggested cold calling on kids. And so this idea of randomization is mostly something I wouldn't have liked, but I actually love the way that it's kind of laid out in this book. So I love the idea of step one, we're teaching kids in this classroom. You got to share your thinking sometimes. We're a community of learners. If you're not ready, I got some ways for you to buy yourself some more time or more support. But the randomization has really great things, right? So it's really going to make sure we're not always calling on the same kids. We're really spreading it out. We're being fair, um, and so the randomization, I think, ideally, how this is all stacking up together, um, is we kind of ask the question, we ask the class a question, and we probably want to let them think it over independently for a bit, and actually kind of giveaway for today's, or kind of spoiler alert about today's, is there's going to be a signal. So I might first pose a question, and then I'm going to say, hey, when you think you have an answer to that question, I want you to give me a thumbs up, some type of signal. And so then after I've seen a signal, I'm like, my kids are ready. They've got something to say. I'm going to say, hey, go ahead and tell your shoulder partner, or maybe get out of your seat and find a partner, whatever you want. Try to, rehearse that answer with a partner, or collaborate with a partner, see what they think of your answer, see what you think of what they're coming up with. So giving them a little bit of student interaction there. And then the third part being like, all right, now that you've had some independent thinking and you've talked with a partner, we're going to do a randomization here, and let's see who can share out their thinking with the whole class. Um, I was in a classroom recently, elementary, and it's just like the teacher asked a question, and every single elementary kid had their hand up, right? So there's like 20 kids in the class, and they're all, ooh, me. They all wanted to talk. And the teacher was just kind of calling one at a time. You get a turn, you get a turn, you get a turn, which is fine. If that's the way she wants to do it, go for it. I would imagine eventually it'd be a little bit like, all right, this is a little bit too much. Um, and so letting kids partner up, right? So I'm asking the question, instead of you all raising your hand to share out whole group, tell your partner. Everyone can share your thinking with your partner right now. And then we'll ask just one or two kids using our randomization to share their thinking with the whole class. That way, everyone has a chance to share what they're thinking, at least with their partner. And then we have a few students who are going to share out whole group. Um, all right. Um, I think so one, there's a couple different systems, right? You could have popsicle sticks, you could have kids that have numbers. I was at Rittner recently, they had Wheel of Names. I really liked that one. Sort of an electronic sort of spinning wheel that would land on a name. So all of these are totally legit, great systems. Whatever's going to work for you is what you should do. I did like this sort of structure, which was called Numbered Heads Together. It's a Kagan strategy. Mostly you get groups of like four, and they're working on a problem together as a group. So maybe it's a math word problem or something like that. So four students are working together trying to solve the problem. Each student in the group has a number, one, two, three, or four. And so after the groups have solved a problem, you're going to call a number, and that number in each group is going to share out their group's thinking. So I might say, okay, three, stand up. If you're number three, stand up. And so then I can go to each group and say, hey, could you tell me what did your group come up with as far as solving this math problem? And again, if a student's not ready, if I call on number three and it's Cami, and Cami's like, I don't know, it's not, I don't know. It's like, Cami, use our poster. What do you want to tell me? She might say, can I talk to my partners again? And I'm probably going to say, let's all talk to our partners again. And then we'll come back and ask Cami if she can share out her group's thinking. So that's another one. Numbered heads together is a good way to kind of do a randomization. Um, all right, I'm going to ask you about what are you using? What is your randomization system? How are your kids responding to randomization? And any thoughts about is this going well, or does it go well with step one, or you know, help me
I
out.
think I think that step three goes well with step one. Step one helps the kids know what to say when you get to them and they don't know what to say when it's
Yes.
step three.
Yeah.
So to me, I really like that step one because it goes hand in hand with step three. And I
Yes.
do use the popsicle sticks mostly because a lot of the times the kids like to choose them or pull the popsicle sticks also, you know.
All right. All right. So you
I
kind of like
really like
shake them up and
using
like, hey,
that.
you choose one. Go ahead. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they like to choose them, you know.
All right.
Sometimes I'll have the student, whoever was just chosen to come and choose, I'll walk to them and let them choose the next popsicle stick. So,
I like that. I like that. Thanks for sharing out.
hmm.
Um, yeah, I just want to say like it's kind of a scary thing for kids, like this sort of like randomization, and they might call on me and I might not be ready. And I think like you want to be doing it regularly so it can not be as scary. And the first couple times you want to just you need a success, right? So if you need to do as much scaffolding or as much accommodation for that student as is needed, if they're a newcomer and it's going to be very difficult for them to share, maybe it's like, hey, no problem. Let's say Johnny is a newcomer. Hey, no problem, Johnny. I'm going to say it. You say it after me, right? So the one property of a solid is blank, or maybe one word at a time. I'll say it, you say it. Maybe I give them a couple choices. You think it's this one or this one? Or if they're super embarrassed, maybe it's like, I guess you can just whisper it in my ear for now. That'd be fine. But not trying not to let them off the hook completely, but understanding that for some kids you might need to do significant accommodation, and then you want to celebrate that. You want to celebrate it if it went well. Um, you need to go upstairs and talk to mom. Hey, I'm really sorry. I got my son here. 1 second. I'm take a little pause. Cammy, jump in.
Another
I
thing
also,
that
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say another great thing that you can do is and I just lost my thought. You go ahead.
I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. We're all
Okay,
good.
well, I was gonna say I like how you said earlier that sometimes kids getting a chance to discuss the question with the peer gives them confidence too, because if they are called on, then now they have a little knowledge if they didn't at first. So I do like the idea of turning and talking first, and we do that also. Turn and talk about the question, and then we'll have someone share out. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I
Great.
was going to say is it's good too when you're starting out learning this process that you do it with things that are non-academic, like show me a red card if your favorite ice cream is chocolate. Show me the green card if your favorite ice cream is vanilla. So you can do
Yeah.
it with things like that too, just to get them used to it. So it's non-threatening and it gets them used to the routine of doing them. So you can use them for non-academic things to practice.
Great. Great idea. Yeah, I love that. The sort of do it about something that we're just interested. Do it for fun the first couple of times just to get everyone used to it. Um, all right. I just had the greatest. I was at a school yesterday, and we were talking about this, and a teacher was talking about they have a newcomer, and the newcomer also has a speech issue. And she was feeling like she was really didn't want to call this particular student's name and was kind of worried about what was going to happen if I call this particular student's name. And sure enough, she drew the card and it was this particular student. But that student like stuck with it, and that student was like, "I'm going to try," and I think was mostly kind of repeating after the teacher, but managed to get through it. And the other kids in the class were really kind of encouraging and were like, hey, that was really great. And you really did it. And then the teacher was like, I got a note the next day from the student's mom. And she was just so proud that her student had participated in class, and that the kid was so proud when he came home that he had participated in class. So I think our instinct is to sort of feel like initially like, ooh, this kid's so new to English. or they're so shy and I don't want to make them do it. And I think like, you know, it's not make them do it, but it's like, how can I accommodate? How can we, I don't want to let you off the hook. I think we can all do this. And so kind of building the whole class up, having the whole class sort of encourage kids and then trying not to shy away, trying not to avoid calling a certain student because you think they're not ready. I mean, look, let's be smart here. If they're in the first week or two of being in the whole country and they're brand new to English and they haven't said a word to anybody, then yeah, we don't need to make them talk in front of the whole class. But I think as soon as you're feeling like students are starting to get comfortable at being at school, it's okay to start pushing kids to participate. And like Cardelia said, usually we give them a time to rehearse. All right, I'm gonna move on. We're gonna get into the new stuff today. Today is step 4. We're talking about total response signals to check for understanding. Um, Mostly it's either indicating, it's usually either a readiness signal. So I'm either ready, I've thought about it and I'm ready to answer, or I'm not ready yet. Or sometimes it's showing sort of my initial thinking is this. So it's either I wrote out my initial thinking, or maybe like Cami was saying, it might be a certain color card that's indicating a particular of a couple choices, which one you're first thinking about. Um, but definitely is sort of an engagement strategy and also kind of formative assessment. So I'm really it's total response. So I'm really needing every student in the class to sort of give me the signal, and then on top of that sort of engagement of hey, you're all with me because I'm waiting to see your signal. I also can kind of see maybe your initial thinking and kind of keep tabs on like who's really getting it or who's giving me some answers that kind of show me that they're not quite there yet. Um, there's a lot of different types of signals they talk about in the book. So you might do like a whiteboard slate where it's sort of a written response. Um, you might do a readiness response is really what I want to spend the most time on. I think that's the one that we really need to be sure we're doing. And that's more kind of like I asked a question, I'm gonna give you some wait time, and you're gonna show me that you're ready with a signal. Making choices, so maybe kind of like Cami was saying, the green card, the red card. Maybe we're doing a multiple choice, and you're telling me which of the couple of choices you like, and then ranking things. So like there's one called like fist to five. So I really agree with it, or I kind of agree with it, or I don't agree with it at all. Things like that. I think they're all excellent. I think you should definitely try them out. See which ones work for you. See which ones your students respond to the best. But I really want to say this readiness response is one we should probably all be doing right away. Um, all right. So just kind of going through them. Written response. Usually this is sort of a whiteboard slate, kind of like what you're seeing here. There's maybe sort of a math computation I'm having kids kind of work on. Um, and then and my sequence again would I would probably say independently work on that math computation. And then I would say, when you have it, I'm going to say, everyone kind of flash it to me, maybe discreetly at your chest, but show me your initial kind of thinking. Then I'm going to say, share with a shoulder partner, right? Tell your partner, show your partner what you did and try to explain what you did. And then we're going to do a randomization where we have a student kind of share out. So I usually always kind of try to encourage this sequence of we're doing independent, we're going to kind of show a signal to our teacher that's going to allow us to kind of share with a partner, and then we're going to do a randomization for a whole group share out. The readiness response is honestly, it's purely wait time. So we know for our multilingual learners, especially, some of them are just needing a little extra time to process what was the question. If they're at earlier levels of proficiency, they're maybe still translating a little bit of what you said and what does that mean to them in their home language, which is a little bit more time consuming. So allowing a little bit of extra time for thinking. The way this would work would basically be I would basically start with saying, hey, for this particular question, I don't want any hands up. I'm going to pose this question. I just want you to think about it. And when you think you're ready, I want you to give me a thumbs up. Or when you think you're ready, I want you to cross your arms. whatever it might be. But basically started off with like, hey, for this one, guys, let's not raise our hands. Let's all just think about it, and you can show me this signal when you think you have an answer. So again, I would use what works for you. In the book, they talk about like raising your hand or sometimes like standing up. I mean, look, if you think your kids can handle it, do it. I'm a little bit hesitant with the. I like discrete signals myself, so I think I kind of remember myself as a kid feeling pressure of like someone gets done with their work right away, and then I feel like I need to be done with my work, or if everyone's showing a signal, it makes me feel like I need to show it too, and I'm being too slow. So I like the more discrete sort of signals. Cardelia, you want to speak in? Yeah. Oh, you just give me the hand up. The go. Keep going. I got it. Good. Um, all right. Yeah. So again, think about it independently. Show me a signal. I see a signal. Honestly, after the signal, you might remind them, hey, remember, we're doing a complete sentence here. So take that answer and think about how you're going to put it in a sentence. Now go ahead and let's tell our partner in a complete sentence. And then, all right, let's have Johnny. Johnny, it's your popsicle stick. What did you come up with? And then if Johnny's not ready, hey, can I talk to my partner again? Excellent. Let's all talk to our partners again. We're coming right back to you, Johnny. Um, all right. So some other ones, making choices. Um, definitely, I would definitely color code for these. I think it's easier to, as a teacher, to see different colors than to kind of see like a different letter or something. So if you want to do sort of multiple choice, sort of review different answer choices. So like, yeah, so like something like this, having different color cards, it'll help you as a teacher as far as the formative assessment piece. So I might know like, hey, for which part of the cell has chlorophyll, I'm not going to expect someone to say cell wall. I think it's chloroplast. I don't even, but I wouldn't expect to see a pink card. So if I'm looking out, if they're showing me their initial thinking, flashing it to me, if I see a couple pink cards, I'm going to think to myself like, I need to check in on that guy and see how that's going because it feels like they're maybe not following along here. Um, but another one is sort of these holdups as far as like multiple choice or taking a position on something. Um, how else we got? And then we have the ranking one. Ranking again, it's a lot about kind of taking position. So, do you think Wilbur was feeling anxious or excited about the state fair? And let's say he's feeling anxious. Fist to five. Who thinks he's feeling anxious, or maybe not at all, or maybe he's a little bit anxious? So you might give them a prompt and then have them show how much they agree or disagree with that statement using sort of a ranking. Another one they talk about in the book is like on your arm. So maybe I really agree or I don't agree or something like that. So that's another kind of total participation signal. Um, so won't kid I love how the book always kind of each chapter is like, how might this go wrong? And if it goes wrong, this is why it's going wrong or what you might do differently. So uh it's kind of talking about won't kids just show the response signal even if they aren't even if they're not ready. Um I think they're kind of their thinking here is like if you feel like kids are taking advantage of it, um you maybe skip the partner talk every so often. And I'm okay. I'm mostly. I think you should mix things up every so often. I mostly would suggest that it's independent, it's partner, it's whole group. But if you do feel like kids are just showing a signal and they don't ever actually have the answer, um, then maybe it's going to say, hey, uh, instead of talking to your partner, we're going to go straight to randomization, just so I know that you actually were ready to answer. So doing that every so often. And then if you're not seeing the signal, what do I do if I say, show me a thumb when you're ready, and then not many people are showing me a thumb? Uh, and the answer is a pretty good one. They're basically saying take it at face value. So um, if you see only one or two people showing you the signal, your first step might be to rephrase the question. So you might be like, oh, I'm feeling like you guys didn't understand that question. So we were talking about the life cycle of the butterfly, I'm asking what the second stage was. So we had the first stage where he's a caterpillar. I don't even know, maybe it's an egg, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So we have the first stage, and I'm asking about what is that next stage. So when you think you know, show me the signal. So you might just rephrase your question. Um, if that's not working, you're probably going to say, "Hey, everyone who is showing a signal, let's put hands down and let's revisit what we're talking about." So I'm going to take an opportunity to reteach. So the feedback you're giving me without showing me a signal is that you're not understanding. So let me try to explain again what is it that we've been learning about and what exactly I'm asking you to respond to. So um, I think I mostly think these are good things. So every so often, maybe we don't do partner talk if we think we're kind of if we're taking advantage of it. And then if I'm not seeing the signal, I either want to rephrase or else let's take it as face value. Okay, guys, let's look at it again. I see that I'm not getting the signal. Let's revisit it. How did this go? Um, I feel like me personally, I might suggest every so often, if you feel like the kids really do have an answer, but they're just being stubborn and not showing you a signal, you might bluff it every so often and be like, oh, I see lots of signals. This is great. Let's move on to sharing with a partner now, right? So I don't know if our authors of our book would agree with that, but I mostly think go tos are rephrase the question, maybe reteach the content sort of briefly and then rephrase. Or if you feel like they're just kind of being stubborn with you, maybe you bluff it and pretend like, hey, I saw a whole bunch of signals, so let's go ahead and share with a partner now. All right. I think I like their little skits that they put in here, so I'm gonna kind of. Is Angie still in here? Angie's my friend. I'm gonna make Angie help me. Angie, you still here with us?
Hey, here I am.
All right, Angie. Angie, will you play the role of Bryce?
You got it.
Um, all right. So in this particular scenario, teacher saying, "Okay, guys, what do you think Stanley's motive was for?" Oh shoot, I messed up. For leaving home. Raise your hand as soon as you've thought about a reason for Stanley to leave. So in this particular case, all the students are raising their hands now. I'm going to do a randomization. Bryce, hey Bryce, what do you think?
May I please have some more information?
Oh, hey, I think maybe you guys, I wasn't clear on my directions. So actually, I want you guys to just raise your hand when you have an answer. So I really want you to think about it first. Please don't raise your hand until you're ready to respond. So let's all think about it, and that way I can be sure that everybody's ready before you make a choice. So this time, most of the students raise their hands, but some are still not raised. So in this particular case, the teacher is then saying, because I'm not seeing a lot of signals, I'm going to kind of reteach. So she goes on, he or she goes on to say, okay, let's talk again about motive. Motive is the reason you do something. Think about what we read yesterday. Remember when Stanley left home? Why do you think he left? Raise your hand when you can finish this sentence. Stanley's motive for leaving was. This time, all students raise their hand. All right, Bryce, what do you think?
Stanley's motive for leaving was that he thought everyone was mad at him.
Awesome. All right. Again, I mean, kind of corny for us to act it out and all that, but I mostly want to say this is kind of the way I would see it happening. Is part of the reason for using a readiness signal is we probably don't need this talk move of could I have some more time, because really you're showing me a signal, so I know that you're indicating you've had enough time. So if we're getting a signal and then the response is could I have more time, it's like, oh hey, I think you're not understanding. So I'm going to ask it again, and really don't show me the signal until you feel like you're ready, because I want to give you some time. And then on the other side, if we're getting no signals or not enough signals, we're going to say, I think you guys aren't quite understanding either what we talked about or what the question means. So let me remind you. We read a story yesterday. You remember about Stanley and the motive is why you're doing something. So I want you to think back about that story and why did Stanley leave? What was his motive for leaving? And so then rephrasing it. And so hopefully that kind of works. so for high school, maybe this kind of crossed my mind. I don't know. I might be way off base, but I almost feel like if I'm sort of firm with these expectations, all right. So what I think is in high school, you're not going to get a signal as much as you want a lot of the time. Um, and if you're kind of firm about this to the point where, like, if I'm not getting the signal, then I'm just diving back in and we're going to reteach again. Uh, I mean, in a way, I don't know. I don't want to say my reteaching is punishment for them, but if they're being a little stubborn for it with me and they actually do have some ideas, but they're just not showing me a signal, I am kind of being like, hey, looks like you still got you aren't quite getting it, so no problem. I'm going to revisit it again, and they might kind of oh, we got so to some extent it might be used in that way as far as like, all right, it feels like maybe you're not understanding it still, so we can check it out again, no problem. But maybe that'll for some older learners that might prompt them to be like, all right, let's show them the signal. We get it. He wants us to participate. Um, I don't know. That's just a thought I had. Candace says not a bad idea. All right, cool. So that's step four. Step four is the total participation. And I think the number one thing is the readiness. So our new sort of sequence is I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to say, I don't want any hands up for this one. Um, and guys, if you want to do this all the time, you should do it all the time. But I really think as far as rolling out this implementation, if you're just doing this once per class period, it's okay, right? So once per class period, I don't want any hands up for, maybe this is our exit ticket. I don't want any hands up for this one. I want you guys to think about it. What was one thing you learned today about an ecosystem? And when you think you have it, I want you to give me a thumbs up. So nobody raise their hand. Just give me a thumbs up when you got it. And then I see a thumbs up and I'm saying, all right, good. I got some signals. Now remember, we're going to do a complete sentence response. So we're saying, one thing I learned about ecosystems was blank. You guys read that with me. One thing I learned about ecosystems was blank. All right, now you're going to turn to your partner, give them that complete sentence and share that one thing that you wanted to share. So then they share with their partner, and then we're ending it with, all right, let's hear from somebody. Let's hear what they or their partner shared. And we're saying, oh, Cardelia, we got you. Go ahead. What did you and your partner say about the ecosystem? What did you learn? Cardelia, I'm just calling you out there. But anyway, that might be your sort of ideal that at least for a readiness signal, that might be what it starts to look like. I think we got like 10 minutes or so. I don't know if people have want to share out a little bit about how it's going with them, or if they've already started to do the signal. Or Cami, you unmuted. Do you have something you want to say?
Rob, you might want to mention your QSSA.
Yeah,
that plays in.
Yeah, so I'll just say there's a cooperative learning structure. It's called QSSA, and it's actually I'm pretty sure it's like the very next chapter, or maybe the chapter, maybe it's 6. I think they bring in QSSA, but it's basically exactly what I laid out, where you're stacking all these things together. So QSSA is an acronym. Q is for question, S is for signal, the second S is for STEM, the third S is for share, and then that fourth piece is the assess, which is usually either it might be I collect all of these, or it might be I ask for a volunteer, or assess might be a randomization. So QSSA, question, signal, STEM, share, assess. Again, it's going to be in the book, but mostly I kind of want to share that, like, I found out about QSSA before I ever read this book. And I kind of liked QSSA. Actually, initially I was like, whatever, I don't know, whatever, it seems okay. And then more and more people are kind of like, oh, look at QSSA, or we did a QSSA with our kids and it went like this. And I started being like, I like this, and I'm going to start using it even in my PD and stuff. But it wasn't until I read the book that I was like, oh, they're totally setting it all up for QSSA. They're giving really good rationale about what each piece of this is. So I've kind of enjoyed, I kind of worked backwards from, I found out about this QSSA thing, and now I'm getting filled in on how do all these pieces sort of connect with each other. And in general, I just think the book's really, it's so easy. It's like, we don't want teachers to make huge changes to what they're doing. We don't want to take up tons of your time trying to think of how you're going to change your practice to meet the needs of multilingual learners. I like these easy things. Hey, no big deal. I can teach them what to say if they don't know what to say. No big deal. I can start to offer a sentence starter every time I'm expecting a complete sentence response. No big deal. I can start to do at least one randomization per lesson just to kind of make sure I'm kind of equitably calling on students. Um, so I like it feels just like super practical and easy to implement. Um, all right, I talk a lot. I don't mean to, but that's what I do. All right, okay. Cammy just put in the chat. All right, I'm gonna kind of nerd out with you a little bit here. This is stuff I care about, and you probably don't, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Carol Salva comes from Seidlitz Consulting, and Seidlitz is the group that published this book, Seven Steps. And Carol Salva is my number one education celebrity person that I love. And if you've never seen Carol Salva in person, I mean, she will do seven steps with you. She will have everybody out of their seats, everybody's talking, and she's just, I mean, so engaging as a speaker, and she just makes so much sense, and she's so down to earth, and like you'll leave like, oh man, I just want to spend all day with that lady. She took over a classroom of refugee students in Texas, had no idea what she was doing, and ended up writing a book about all the things she learned and how she finally started to see results with her students. The book's called Boosting Achievement. Um, so the book's called Boosting Achievement. The woman is named Carol Salva. She's an education consultant and author. And anyway, she's going to be at the Kansas City RPDC in February. um, she was in St. Louis in like 2018, but I'd love to bring her back soon. But anyway, Cami put in the chat a link if you happen to think that you're. Oh, actually, Cami said some of these funds could be used to send people. Is that right,
Yes,
Cami?
you can
Yeah,
use your CLSD PD funds for a trip to go and pay for that.
neat,
So
neat.
we are encouraging you to sign up to attend if you can. It's a great opportunity. And we're probably going to use the book, Boosting Achievement, as our next book study.
He's coming out with a new edition of that book.
Yes.
Yeah, she's wonderful. Highly recommend. We go through you to book that. Yeah, I think use that link. That link will take you to my learning plan,
Yeah, and you'll just
which
submit for reimbursement if you pay when you pay for it. So it'll go through the grant and you can get reimbursed for
yep.
attending.
Um, hey, I anyone who shared out some thinking and how it's going in the chat, I really really appreciate you. Angie, thank you for doing a little skit with me, and Cardelia, you're the MVP today. Lots of sharing out. Thank you for doing that. And Thank you guys. I've enjoyed the book so far, and I've really enjoyed doing class visits. And if I haven't been to your school yet, I hope to come soon. Um, so I'll see you guys all at the next one. I think I'm gonna I'm gonna cut them out early, Cammy. I don't know. We got a little bit of extra time, but what am I gonna do here? So
Thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Thanks, Rob.
yeah, yeah, that's good.